YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Another video on Old Red, our project 1983 Peterbilt 359. Now you guys may notice there's no transmission in this truck right now. Now that's going to be a separate video, but it does kind of have a little bit to do with what we're doing in this video. Now while the transmission was out, I thought it would be a really good idea to drain the coolant out and replace this hose right here on the back of the head while I got easy access to it. And then seems how all the coolant's out of the engine. Just went ahead and replaced all the rest of the coolant lines everywhere on the truck. You guys have seen me change lots of lines in the past. We did these heater hoses recently. We did a bunch of fuel lines and stuff on the other side a while back. But went ahead and replaced every single coupling, every single hose. All that stuff got all new in there. Filled the radiator up with water yesterday. And I want to go ahead and I want to pressurize the coolant system while we're working here today and just be darn sure that we don't have any leaks, especially on that one on the back side of the engine. Once the new trans is in and stuff and we can run the engine, you know, we'll go ahead and do the full flush and get new coolant in here, but we just got straight water in it here for now. I'm waiting for a new flywheel to come in. The flywheel that was on here was too small. I couldn't even get a clutch that was rated for the horsepower that this thing makes stock, so not really sure what happened there, but we had to order a new flywheel, and that's been delayed in shipping with weather delays and stuff, so hopefully we should have that in soon, and we'll be able to start getting the transmission put back in. Now that leads us up to our next thing we're going to do here today. This is the transmission that came out of Old Red. It's an old 5 Series Eaton Fuller 13-speed. It's actually a good working transmission. It works just fine. But had a rear main seal leaking. I knew I had to take the tranny out anyway. So just go ahead while it's out. We're going to upgrade this to 9 Series 18 speed. Now you can see here that this was a mechanical drive speedometer on this. And in the newer 9 Series transmissions, you can't even retrofit a mechanical drive on there. You have to be electronic. Now you can see here this is our speedometer. And you can see that there is an adapter on here to go from the mechanical drive to an electronic signal. This is for the aftermarket cruise control on the truck. So we're going to be using the electronic sensor on the 9 Series transmission for the cruise control. And then this is what we're going to be using for the speedometer in the truck. Now this is actually a GPS speedometer. It has a satellite antenna here, and this takes GPS speed and turns it into a speedometer. It's got an odometer on it, all that good stuff. So now there's a few things about this that I could see as being problematic. Primarily, you know, if you lose GPS signal, then you're not going to have a speedometer, but time will tell on that if that's going to be good or not. It's really not that hard actually to put a regular regular electronic speedometer in, as long as you've got a speed sensor, which we're going to have a speed sensor. But I wanted to try this out because, you know, doing it this way, you're always going to have an accurate speedometer. And you never have to mess with speedometer calibrations again. If you change tire size, you know, whatever, it's not going to matter. The GPS isn't going to care. But anyway, before we get to putting the speedometer on, I want to go ahead and get the cooling system pressurized here. That way it can sit under pressure and we can make sure we don't have any leaks. Basically just use an adapter here that goes to a pump. We're going to go ahead and pump this up. Okay, so we've got that pumped up to about 9 psi. That should be plenty for what we're doing here. Just going to let that sit under pressure while we go put the speedometer in and come back and check everything for leaks. Alright, now this speedometer installation should be a fairly straightforward deal. We're going to take this bolt out of the steering column here so we can drop the wheel down. Now with the wheel out of the way, we just loosen these thumb screws here, flip the whole deal here down, Yeah, the speedometer cable actually broke. I guess that explains why the speedometer stopped working. Alright, so now we should just be able to take our hold down screws out of here. Alright, so here's the old speedometer. Here's the new speedometer. Obviously, they're not an exact match. I tried to get the closest match that I could to what was there, but this is about the closest I could find in a GPS speedometer. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this in the hole. Now this one's got a screwed on ring back here, and that's what locks it down. So get that unscrewed. Go ahead and stick that through the hole here. It fits, that's a good thing. Now before we get that completely locked down, let's go ahead and try to square that up. Alright, so now that the speedometer is in place, we've only got 3 wires plus a GPS antenna to deal with. So the wiring on this is pretty simple. Red needs to go to key on ignition source, blue is chassis ground, and orange is for the illumination on the gauge with your headlights. And then the antenna, it's just got this small coax on it. Screw it on the back, find a good place for this to go, and that's a done deal. Okay, so for the ground, I'm just going to gang that up with some other grounds here on the dash cluster. We're going to put a ring terminal on here. We already got a number of grounds on this lug here for this gauge, so we're just going to put that ring terminal on there. Got it taken down nice and snug. Now the orange wire should be pretty simple. It's fine. Here's the original dash light wire. For the speedometer, we're just going to cut that off. Now whenever I use butt splices, I always use these marine grade insulated ones. They've got a heat activated glue in them, as well as the connector itself heat shrinks. So once you shrink these things, it makes a good, nice tight connection. Doesn't let any water in. Not that behind the dash is that terribly important. I mean, if you're getting water behind the dash, you got bigger issues to worry about. But whenever I use a butt splice, I always use this kind. They work fairly well. Alright, so now we're going to need to find a good key on ignition source. Might even just go... Oh god, that buzzer's going to be annoying. I can't hear the truck up right now either. Well, we're just going to have to deal with it. But I might be able to just come straight off the ignition switch here. See if there might be something a little more convenient in here though. So it's... Sorry about the buzzer, there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, I think I'm just going to go right to the ignition switch here. It's right there anyway. So we'll put a ring terminal on this, put it on the ignition switch on this terminal here, and then that should be that. Okay, and then same thing I did with the round wire, just crimp on a ring terminal, will heat shrink. This 3M double-sided trim tape, man, this stuff really holds good. Just kind of get that on there. There we go. Alright, then we're just going to take this, stick it right up under there, stick it on. That ain't going nowhere. Be able to flip that up now. Alright, so now when we turn the key on, this thing should sweep and self-test. And turn the dash lights on. Perfect. Now you can see that this actually says 11 miles on it. I did some testing on this already. Just running around with it in my pickup, checking, making sure the speed was accurate and there wasn't any issues or anything. Now, this trip here is flashing and this number is counting because it doesn't currently have GPS signal. There is no GPS signal inside of the shop here. Barely even have cell service in here, so as soon as you go out the door, it works just fine. Alright, so there's the speedometer all done. I'd love to show you this working, but for some reason can't really do that right now. Alright, so our radiator is still pressurized. Just finished checking that. I did have a couple of hose clamps just to snug up right away. They were leaking just a little bit, but just snugged up the clamps. We're good to go. Don't see any leaks anywhere, so I think we're good to go as far as coolant hoses and stuff goes. No leaks in the radiator, nothing like that going on, so Anyway, until next time, be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Thank you. Have a great day.